Hello, brothers and sisters. Today I want to discuss the Shemitah. I know that many of you are very excited about this upcoming September because of the new Shemitah cycle and the possibility that we could be going home to be with the Lord during this year's fall feast. However, I do understand that many folks get very excited about the fall feast. And when the feasts come and go, then they go from excited to saying, oh no, we're still here. Does that mean that we have to wait until the next Shemitah cycle? And then they're left feeling crushed. So we have to manage our expectations reasonably and not get so hyped up to the point that when the day passes that we're left feeling crushed. So I just want to comfort folks ahead of time if we are still here after this year's fall feast. Remember this one thing, that no matter how good a Shemitah cycle sounds, only God knows the true Shemitah. And this year might not even be the correct cycle. We shouldn't be dogmatic about any certain particular date for the Shemitah because only God knows the exact Shemitah timeline. With man, there is always going to be reason for error, but not with God. I know many fellow Christians can come up with some very compelling timelines for Shemitah cycles, with dates going all the way back to the beginning. And they have many believing that this year, 2022, through the year 2029, is going to be the new Shemitah cycle. And maybe it is. However, this year might not be the true Shemitah cycle, and we should not be so dogmatic about it that we put all of our eggs in one basket. Remember, we have to manage our expectations so that we're not left feeling crushed. And I believe that the number one thing to consider when coming up with the Shemitah cycle is the resurrection date of Jesus Christ. That is because that date will allow us to know the year of his return, which would be the ultimate Shemitah of the year 6000 from Adam, the start of the great Sabbath day lasting 1,000 years. So we have to keep that in mind when setting a Shemitah timeline. So if you believe this September to be the next Shemitah cycle, then what you were saying is that Christ died in the year 29 AD. As for me, I believe that 29 AD is a possibility, but I'm leaning now a little bit more towards the year 30 AD. Just as Jonah gave a 40-day warning before the destruction of Nineveh, it would make sense to me that after Christ's death on the cross that he gave the Jews 40 years to repent and to believe the good news before the destruction of the temple in the year 70 AD. And if not 30 AD, then 32 AD looks good, and also 33 AD at the very latest. Meaning that the absolute latest date that I believe that Jesus will return is by the year 2033. But it all depends on the year of the Passion of Christ, because Hosea's 6:2 prophecy must come to pass, and Christ must return after 2 days. That's 2,000 years from the cross. So don't be discouraged if this year's fall feasts come and go, because this year might not be the true Shemitah. The Shemitah depends on the year of the crucifixion. That is the most important date in all of history, and most likely for all of eternity. I believe that the last year will end in the year 6000 from Adam, being the end of the 120th Jubilee. And I believe that there are 120 Jubilee cycles, because the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Speaking of all of the Jubilee cycles for mankind, which total 6,000 years from Adam. We were appointed 6 days to work, and the 7th day is the Sabbath day, which is Christ's 1,000-year reign. Now I know that the Jubilee cycles are highly debated. Some say that they're only 49 years, and others like myself believe that they are 50-year cycles. The 50th year being the Great Jubilee, in which the trumpet is blown on the Day of Atonement, as it is written in the book of the law, and thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years, and the space of the 7th Sabbath of years shall be unto thee 49 years. Then, notice it's saying then, meaning after 49 years, Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall ye make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. And ye shall hallow the 50th year. Notice here that it says the 50th year, not the 49th year, the 50th year. And proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family. Now, I believe that Jesus is going to return to set up his kingdom and to gather the remnant Jews that were scattered during the Great Tribulation to their own land and resurrect those that died for Christ during the Great Tribulation in the 50th year of the 120th Jubilee, which would be exactly 2,000 years from his death, his burial, and his resurrection that happened on the third day. And this would be the Great Jubilee in which the great trumpet would blast that would gather together all of the Jews and gather them back to their own land after the Great Tribulation. I also believe that Christ rising on the third day is a dual prophecy. Obviously, Christ fulfilled rising on the third day at his resurrection, but the second time around, Christ is going to rise to power at his second coming, which would be on the third day, exactly 2,000 years from when he left the earth. For a day is as 1,000 years to the Lord, and Christ will return after 2 days, according to Hosea 6:2 prophecy. So remember that the rapture date and the Shemitah cycle, as well as the second coming of Christ, all revolve around the date of the crucifixion. If Christ died in the year 29 AD, then that means that the 120th Jubilee will be in the year 2029. If he died in the year 30 AD, then that means that the 120th Jubilee would be in the year 2030 AD, and so on. So if 2022 comes and goes, then don't be discouraged, because all that means is that either the Great Tribulation is cut short, only lasting 3.5 years, or that Christ died at a later date and it was not in the year 29 AD. It could have been in the year 30 AD, or 32 AD, or 33 AD. We can't know with 100% certainty the year of the crucifixion. We have to put in some assumptions and speculation. I know folks like that feeling of being very excited about a certain date, but there are those that cannot cope with disappointments well. And when a certain date that they've had their eyes on comes and goes, then they're left feeling crushed. And some are able to recover much faster than others. That's why it's important to not put all your hope in any one date. Know that he might come, and it's okay to get excited. I get excited myself, but you have to manage that excitement to the point where you're not going to be left feeling disappointed and crushed when that date comes and goes, because you know that there's many other dates that Christ can come. So we have to manage that excitement to a reasonable degree, as I believe that the Passover of the year 2033 is the deadline for the Hosea 6:2 prophecy of Christ's return after 2 days from the cross, with the year 2033 being the absolute longest possibility for Christ's second coming. And whether the Great Tribulation only lasts 3.5 years or 7 years, that's going to also play a factor as well, as I am no longer dogmatic about either of the two options. Therefore, to find the true year of the Shemitah, we must start at the year of the crucifixion, which was the year 4000 from Adam, and then simply add 2,000 years to get to the year of the second coming of Christ. Then all we would have to simply do is subtract 7 years or 3.5 years from the second coming of Christ to give us the year of the rapture. So as you can see, there are many variables, which makes finding the true Shemitah cycle as well as the rapture and the second coming quite difficult. So if you're the type of person that gets disappointed and takes it very hard, then don't put all your hope in the year 2022. Know that there are many other years ahead that have a strong potential to be the year of the rapture. I know that we're all eager to be raptured out of this wicked fallen world as soon as possible. We all desire to be home with the Lord sooner rather than later. But God has an appointed time, and there is nothing that we can do to speed up that appointed time, which is exactly 2,000 years from the cross. And we are the last generation that will live to cross that finish line mark of 2,000 years from the cross. Now that is exciting. That's all I have for now, brothers and sisters. I love you all, and God bless you all, and Maranatha.